a humble Douglas Chambers, Chief Okulunri Okome Ife Umuna Umunri, one and only. We're in Brunswick, Georgia, at Selden Park. This is the annual CISA Igbo World Fest. So it's a blessing to be able to show my title, my chieftaincy, to people who appreciate and accept it. And I'm grateful.
My name is Chief Ugonna John Gregg. This Brunswick is it's a combination of many things. It's for sure a celebration of Igbo-ness and being Igbo. And we do it annually, and I've been coming for years now. It's a fantastic event. It's not only a cultural event where we celebrate that part of being Igbo, but we celebrate who we are. And quite interestingly, the way it turned out, people came separately to this event, all with the same intention to talk about who we are, who are the Igbo. And it was actually not only enlightening, it was uplifting, and it's the kind of thing that I hope that the taping of the event is something that you'd be able to see. Anybody who gets to see that, it's just a wonderful capture of some very insightful things that make the description of who the Igbo man really is.
My name is Deli Ajifo. I'm from Ibuzo in Anyoma. It was very significant yesterday to see a place where a group of people chose death instead of slavery. Hence the maxim of the Igbo, give me liberty or death.
Let me begin with a simple but uncomfortable question. Why is it that today, people who are not Igbo proudly wear Isiago, learn Igbo greetings, learn Igbo language, and display Igbo symbols with confidence, while some Igbo people themselves feel shy, even embarrassed, to speak their own language in public? This is not an attack as some people may perceive it. This is just an observation. Across churches, fashion spaces, social media handles, and international events, Igbo culture is suddenly very visible, loud, celebrated, shared, sometimes even admired by people who are more outside Igbo land than those who are within Igbo land. And that raises a deeper question. Are we witnessing a global renaissance of Igbo identity, or are we watching a culture being reduced to symbols while its meaning quietly disappears? This is not a new dilemma at all. History has seen this before. The Nigerian writer and cultural thinker, Professor Chinua Achebe, once warned, a people without a knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. That statement was not poetic exaggeration. It was historical diagnosis. Today, Igbo culture is traveling faster than ever before. Isiago patterns appear on global runways, in churches all over the world. Non-Igbo clergy wear Igbo-inspired vestments. Influencers greet millions with phrases like Nde Wono and Kedu. The world is watching and applauding. Even people all over Asia are speaking Igbo language, interviewing people on streets with Igbo language.
There's what me and my siblings use all the time. It's like Umagu, right? Igo Weto Regi Nazuno, but it's quite a long one.
That is quite a long one, bro.
Say, just
I
be
don't know
like,
if I can repeat that one.
Do Umagu, right?
Magura. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it means if I slap you.
If I slap you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it goes on to say, Ige Weto Regi Nazuno, which means you find yourself at the back of the house.
Wow.
But it's Igo Weto Regi.
Igo Weto Regi.
Yeah, Nazuno.
Nazuno.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, and the first part?
Magura.
Magura.
Yes.
Igo
Weto Oregi.
Wetio Regi.
Yes.
Regi.
Oregi.
Nazuno.
Yes.
And if I slap you, you'll find yourself at the back of the house.
Yes,
Okay.
The world is watching and applauding, but applause alone does not preserve culture. The Senegalese historian Sheikh Anta Diop, one of Africa's most respected intellectuals, argued that a people who abandon their own language also abandon their own cultural identity. Language to people like Diop was not decoration. It was the engine of memory, worldview, and continuity. So we must ask why the world is wearing Igbo culture. Are Igbo people still living the Igbo culture? In many homes today, Igbo children grow up fluent in English, but unable to hold a simple conversation n'asụsụ Igbo. Their mother tongue is missing. Some parents discourage Igbo at home, believing English represents progress, intelligence, or global relevance. This belief did not emerge naturally. It was engineered. How did we come to the stage where we believe that our children na-asụ asụsụ Igbo na fa mala akwụkwọ? Na ndị mala akwụkwọ bụ ndị na-asụ asụsụ Oyibo or asụsụ Bekee, as the case may be. How did speaking Igbo reduce the intelligence of our ancestors who were able to build pyramids in Unsude, smelt iron in Nsukka, make stone tools? How did speaking Igbo reduce their intelligence in any way? The British colonial education was designed not only to rule territories, but to reorder values. The historian Basil Davidson explained that colonialism succeeded because it undermined the self-confidence of African societies by presenting their cultures as backward and inferior. Once that seed was planted, generations began equating foreigners with advancement. They began equating foreigners traveling outside as advancement. So when a foreigner wears this Siagu today, it feels validating. But when an Igbo child speaks Igbo in schools and is corrected or mocked, it sends the opposite message. The child is even punished for speaking Igbo. They tell the child he is speaking vernacular, even when the school is in Igbo land. One says, your culture is beautiful. The other says, your culture is a problem. That contradiction is at the heart of this conversation. Culture is not static. It evolves. The historian Toyin Folala reminds us that African cultures have always been dynamic, adaptive, and responsive to change. Igbo culture has never been frozen in time. It absorbed interferences and influences through trade, migration, contacts long before colonialism. But adaptation is not the same as erasure. While we adapt, we must not change completely. There's a difference. There's a difference between sharing culture and losing control of it. We must be mindful of what we lose while we become who we want to become. Today, many celebrate what they call global appreciation. And yes, there is appreciation globally of the Igbo culture. But appreciation without understanding can become performance, just a mere performance. When symbols are worn without stories, when language is replaced by aesthetics, culture risks becoming a costume. And culture is beyond costume. The Nigerian historian Jacob Ade Ajayi once noted that tradition is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire. The fire of Igbo culture is not Isiago. The fire of Igbo culture is not the 3 hands back and then 1 front handshake. There is something behind it. Communal responsibility, respect for elders, enterprise, resilience, debate, and self-determination for which the Igbo man is known. The Igbo worldview respects all these things that I mentioned, The Igbo worldview places immense value on personal achievement, education, integrity, honesty, modesty. This is why we have proverbs like Nezia Fakego. This is why also, even after the war and devastation and marginalization, Igbo communities rebuilt themselves with remarkable speed with just 20 pounds. But that same adaptability can also become dangerous when it turns into self-abandonment, which is what we are seeing today. A renowned historian, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the Kenyan writer and cultural theorist, warned that the domination of a people's language by the language of the colonizer is crucial to the domination of the mental universe of the colonized. When a people begin to think exclusively in another language, they begin to see themselves through another people's eyes. They begin to lose themselves. This is why language is very important. This is why we must address the case of language loss, which we are experiencing non-Igbo. When an Igbo proverb, for instance, disappears, an entire philosophy disappears with it. When children no longer understand idioms, metaphors, and ancestral expressions, they lose access to centuries of accumulated wisdom. Many people think these are just sayings. It took years for the sayings to come into a particular thought and express that way. So again, we must ask, what does it mean for Igbo culture to go global? If it means visibility without depth, then dilution is inevitable. But if it means sharing while strengthening internal transmission, then pride is justified. The danger, however, is not foreigners embracing Igbo culture. Not at all. Culture grows when they are shared with people. The danger here is when the original custodians of that culture stop teaching, stop speaking, and stop valuing their own heritage. That is the real danger. History is very clear on this. Civilizations rarely collapse because outsiders attack them. Not at all. They fade when internal confidence erodes. Basil Davidson again observes that the greatest damage of colonialism was not material, but psychological. The erosion of belief in one's own institutions and values. That erosion does not end with independence. It lingers quietly, shaping choices, preferences, parenting decisions. There are some things our parents used to do before now. They say, no, don't do it. But those were the things that were used to keep us in check, to mold us into who we are today. But we can no longer do them. Those strict disciplinarian parents that we know, that were not only parents of their own children, but parents of everyone. That is why a woman is called Wanyi, daughter of all, or a child that belongs to all, because it takes the community to raise a child. But these days they say, no, don't put on there, it's not your child. Even in schools, teachers are afraid to discipline our children because we have copied a model that is alien to us. Now, what this brings us to is a generational divide. Older generations grew up when Igbo language and customs were unavoidable and invaluable. They were taught in schools, markets, ceremonies, storytelling, all reinforced Igbo identity on our children. Younger generations are growing up in a digital, globalized environment where identity competes with algorithms, trends, and social media acceptance. Neither generation is wrong. They are responding to different realities of their times. But culture survives when it is deliberately transmitted from one generation to another, undistorted. Our very treasured historian, Folala, emphasizes that cultural survival depends not only on nostalgia, but on intentional practice. You cannot preserve culture by complaining online alone. It survives in homes, in naming practices, in language use, in storytelling, and in everyday normalization of life. What are the names your children are bearing today? Are they Igbo names? Do they tell anything at all about yourself, about themselves, about the day they are born, or about the culture of Ndi Igbo? How well have you played your role in preserving the Igbo culture? Ị na-asụkwa asụsụ Igbo n'ụlọ be gị? Ị na-asụkwala ụmụ gị asụsụ Igbo? Ụmụ gị amakwa asụ Igbo? I am asking this question in almost every video that I drop because it is important that you answer it. Let it prick your conscience. Your parents did not take any money from you to teach you Igbo language. This is where the conversation becomes even more uncomfortable. Some Igbo people celebrate foreign validation more than internal continuity. A white priest wearing his yagwal, as I posted a few days ago, feels like global approval. But an Igbo parent insisting on speaking Igbo at home feels inconvenient, unconventional, not useful. As somebody once told our sister, Professor Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Eji Igbo eje ebe. According to her, that is the dumbest question she has ever heard in her life. Because it's a mark. That question, according to her, is a mark of remarkable stupidity. Meji Igbo eje ebe is not accidental. It reflects conditioning. Professor Chinua Achebe warned about this internal fracture when he wrote, "The worst thing that can happen to any people is the loss of their dignity and self-respect." Dignity is not loud. It is not bold nationalism. It is quiet confidence. So what should the response be when Igbo culture goes global? Not rejection, definitely not rejection, not hostility, not gatekeeping culture through anger. That Igbo culture is going global is a good thing. The solution is balance. Let the world wear Ishiagu if they want to, but let Igbo people teach its meaning to them. Let foreigners learn Igbo greetings as well, but let Igbo children speak Igbo without shame. Let culture travel, but let the anchor remain firm at home. Any culture that exists only on stages and on social media platforms eventually becomes hollow. Culture that lives in everyday life survives for centuries. This moment is not a moment of crisis. It is a moment of opportunity. Now that we have global attention creates responsibility. When others show interest in your culture, it is an invitation to define it clearly, teach it accurately, and preserve it intentionally. If Igbo people do not value their culture, the world will not. If Igbo people do not tell their own stories, others will tell them, sometimes incorrectly. So when we pose this all-important question, Igbo culture going global, pride or dilution, the honest answer may be this: it is both. It is pride when it strengthens identity. It is dilution when it replaces substance with symbols. And the difference depends on what Igbo people choose to do next. History has shown very clearly that cultures do not survive by accident. They survive by choice. When people deliberately choose to preserve their culture. So the question is no longer whether the world is embracing Igbo culture or not. That is already happening. The real question is this: whether Igbo people will embrace it deeply enough themselves to carry it forward, intact, meaningful, and alive the way it was handed down to us. The decision begins today, and history will remember the choice each and every one of us make. The choice begins with you. In your homes, begin to teach your children Igbo language if they do not already know how to speak the language. Tell them about Igbo stories, our heroes of the past, male and female. Thank God we have abundance of them. Inspire them by telling them good things about Ndi Igbo. Tell them how we rebuilt ourselves with 20 pounds after 1970. Tell them how we came from our own ashes like Phoenix. Remind them of their greatness and see if they will not wholly embrace their culture. We are Igbo people and we are unapologetic about the identity as Ndi Igbo. Please, if this is your first time of coming across our video and you like what we are doing, kindly hit the subscribe button. Share this video, drop your opinion, and I will see you in my next video. Please look through our channel. You will find many other interesting videos that will suit your fancy. Binge on them, call your family members together, watch our videos, share them, invite as many people as you know who love Igbo culture and tradition to come and follow our channel. See you in our next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.